Good afternoon to the good people. Good afternoon to the bad people, friends and enemies. And welcome to the Precursor with heavy horrors. We report that you heard on the news all day about the Minneapolis shooting. And we're going to break that down a little bit. Just want you always know to be well where you are. Um, Doing programs like this never gets easy, and it never should. But we're here, and we have to report it, and we could talk about it if you like. I'd like for you to. And just to get a gauge on what's going on in our country, it's always the damage of shame because you're talking about dealing with people and dealing with children. And so when you're trying to make sense again out of nonsense, it doesn't always work out that way. It really doesn't. Here's what we know so far. The shooter fired through the windows of a Catholic church in Minnesota today, killing 2 children and wounding 17 people who were marking the first week of class at the Annunciation Catholic school. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said police don't yet have a motive for the shooting. The FBI identified the shooter, who was dead, as Robin Westman, who was 23 years old. The suspected graduated from the school in 2017, according to a yearbook obtained by CNN. Again, the Annunciation Catholic School is well known in the neighborhood for its very community-oriented mindset, said U.S. Senator Tina Smith, who lives several miles away. It's a school that's very engaged in community and very connected to the neighborhood, she said, and told CNN's Casey Hunt. Whether your family and children are going to Annunciation School or not, it's that neighborhood is very much a part of the community with a real sense of connection and also activism. How you doing, Barbara Jean? And Wednesday afternoon greetings to you too. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Police give another update as they investigate what led to a deadly shooting to the Minneapolis Catholic school today. So again, going back to uh, the situation that happened, we've seen this far often too many times in the news when it comes to shooting of schools. And whether the shooter has a manifesto or not is always interesting of why. Why would you pick a place that, don't get me wrong, anybody gets shot and killed is horrible. We talk about children. Anybody gets shot and killed is horrific. But children who are going to school, children who were literally praying, literally in the school by their pews, and all of a sudden this knucklehead manifested, premeditated to kill these children. The shooter had no prior criminal history. Westman is believed to have acted alone. The weapons were a rifle, shotgun, and pistol used to carry out the attack were purchased legally. O'Hara also said they were purchased recently. No motive yet. Westman released a quote-unquote manifesto on YouTube that appeared to show the shooter at the scene and included some disturbing writings. They have been taken down, and investigators are reviewing the content to try to develop motive. Again, 2 children were killed. An 8 and 10-year-old were pronounced dead on the scene. 14 other children between the ages of 6 and 15 were injured by gunfire. 3 other people were in their 80s were also shot. The victims who were hurt are experiencing a range of injuries, but they all are expected to survive. Shooting started at the beginning of Mass, with some children already seated and others still coming in. Police officers in Minneapolis are deeply traumatized by what they saw. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz thanked law enforcement for their heroic work and said he spoke to President Donald Trump this morning. He said students heading back to school this week were met with evil and horror and death. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey commended the faculty at Annunciation Catholic School for their heroic efforts. There's a sign by the Annunciation School that read, um, "A future filled with hope." There's a story on CNN News Central that was covering this earlier, and there was a survivor. His name is Weston Housney. He's 10 years old. He said his friend really saved his life. His friend covered him, and his friend got shot in the back. Is currently in the hospital. His friend's name is Victor. And just think about that for a couple of minutes. A 10-year-old who's being interviewed by all types of media from coast to coast and beyond is staying there giving eyewitness accounts of a shooting that happened in their school. And then mentioned about his friend Victor, who saved his life. He said his friend is really brave and that he's praying for him. Absolutely incredible. How you doing, Gus? Gus says, hello, it's me, the bad. Of course it's the bad. Of course you're here. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Also, Barbara Jean is on the YouTube channel, which of course is the Chris Space channel. You type in that, all one word with a period at the end of the channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Also catch me on Instagram, I am the base, Facebook Live. Of course, you call in on the Precursor to give your comment about this, comments and questions about the unfortunate happenings there in Minneapolis. Call in at 312-597-2106. Again, 312-597-2106. Or if you're so bold or bolder than calling in, you can always ask for the link, the show link. I put the link in the comment section. You come on with me on the screen and, again, have your comments and questions. So there's various ways, of course, to contact this program. Pope Leo went on to say, he says he was profoundly saddened by the deadly Catholic shooting. He sends his heartfelt condolences and the assurance of spiritual closeness to all those affected by the terrible tragedy, especially the families now grieving the loss of a child. Of course, Leo is the first American leader of the Catholic Church. And covering this and getting all the information earlier was just, it's heartbreaking. Let's go to the phones and say good afternoon to Gus. How you doing, Bad? How's everything? How you doing, Gus?
Well, I'm not doing as well as I'd like. Viral infections, flu, and all that stuff. And well, I'm 74. I'll be 75 soon. And I usually call in. I haven't been doing too well the last couple of weeks, but I've always made my comments kind of direct toward the events in our society.
Yes.
And I'm not a NRA type person. And all of you know, you personally, and a few others that know a little about me, I'm a Marine Corps veteran that got out of the United States Marine Corps when I was discharged in 1971. And we did a lot of stuff in the Marine Corps and with weaponry and whatever. And I'm always supporting our police department, fire department, and our first responders. And we're really at strong odds with these elements of our society that want to break the norm and do what they want. So I'm trying to think that perhaps no matter what the laws are, even if you enforce them, you're going to have people that do what they want to do. So we have to find some way that we can get along with each other so to better protect ourselves. And I don't know what else to say because, you know, to have lives shut down because of emotional outbursts, this is wrong. And you see it in our schools. I remember back in the '80s when they closed off a whole block and
Mm,
these terrorists exploded a whole block, and I think it was in Maryland or something like that. So we always have these incidental things that, well, I'm hoping that we can rise above this stuff because to have these young lives cut down in the prime or near the prime,
yeah.
what they're trying to gain, and we have to have hope in our youth. So maybe the hope for our society is to instruct and give our youth something to go on, so they can take over what perhaps we made uh, bad decisions, mistakes, whatever you want to call it. I'm hoping that our youth can change our society because that's the only hope we got. Because right now, many of us, I included, my age group, my society, we just dropped the ball. We did, and I'm hoping that we can get better areas of health, education, welfare,
Mm,
stuff like that. Medical stuff, but stuff like this hurts.
yeah.
When I see this, and nobody's other than yourself that is addressing these problems because what we need to do is get a better psychological format so that we can all understand each other. And perhaps maybe my verbose, long-windedness is a little bit hard to accept, but I appreciate you allowing me to at least express my feelings. And I'm, I'm in severe trouble now just accepting this because the families that are involved are hurt the worst. These scars will stay with them for, well, quite a long time. Can you erase what happened? No.
No.
Can you learn to live with it? Well, that's going to be very difficult. But can we do something to help each other in our society? And our American society is supposed to be the best. I mean, we think it is because this is what we are. But I'm not so sure because I know other countries are having problems, other
Yeah.
nations, but I'm looking at our problems right here and now, and I'm hoping that you and other activists can wake a lot of people up. So I'll hang up and I'll listen to your comment.
Thank you, Gus. I appreciate it. You. Take care.
So I'll hang up and I'll listen to your comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. Take care.
Okay. You had the speaker there. We have to find a way to heal. That's where we are right now with this whole shooting. And even if we don't have any shootings, it's just trying to heal ourselves. Well, let's stick with what's happening here in Minneapolis. My suggestion is, of course, to let the community know, because as I read in the article, the community there, where the church is, the Annunciation Catholic Church, has always been a strong community. So the shock of all of this going on, hopefully through spirituality, continue to find a way to get stronger. No, it's not easy. No, it's not going to happen overnight. But some wounds do heal. And like Gus said about trying to live with it and keep moving forward, we have to find strength somewhere. That's the thing about it. Even if you're agnostic or atheist, whatever strength you can find, try to find it and hold on to it. Some of the conversations that were happening in the news when all this was going on was about how can this be prevented. Now, some people suggested mass violent warning signs. Now, here are some of the warning signs they were talking about. Comments, jokes, or threats about violent plans, comments about hurting themselves or others, unusual difficulty coping with stress, reduced interest in hobbies and other activities, and the last one, obsessive interest in prior attackers or attacks. And I get what they're trying to say here, but I think to a lot of degrees, it's kind of hard to gauge about school shootings and violence. Westman attended this school. He knew all the enters, the exits and entrances and everything else. So to bolt the door with 2x4s, they were saying on the news, to make sure nobody got out, and then to shoot through the window as he did, to me, is disgustingly evil. Completely evil. Hey, how you doing, Lisa? Lisa London. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the Base Nation. Thank you so much for being here as we try to put our minds and wrap our hearts around Minneapolis right now, of course, with the shooting that unfortunately happened. Let's see. This was part of the manifesto they found about Eastman, the shooter. He said the following: I have waited for this for so long. I am not well. I am not right. I am a sad person, haunted by these thoughts that do not go away. I know this is wrong. This is what Robin Westman wrote down. He wrote this. So, of course, premeditation, and knew he was doing wrong. The gunman inflicted the gunshot upon himself, so we cannot question him. I mean, of course, the authorities cannot. Or why he was sad. Why did he do it? We don't know. Also, know that his mother also attended and worked at the Annunciation School as well, the church. So the ties and connectability to it and motives, we don't know for sure. Going back to the Minneapolis police saying we have not found a motive yet, but we're open to possibilities. We do not have a motive at this time, is a direct quote, but open to possibility. That goes back to, of course, investigations also by the FBI. Let's see. As we go back to the comment section. Hello, how you doing? Omar says, hello, Chris. The shootings today is making so sad. Inside my prayers belong to the Minneapolis community. There are 2 children and the 17 people who got hurt. Yeah, thank you, Omar. They're going to have a lot of prayers, condolences, of course, sending out love and hopefully some form of how can you, how it's hard to understand no matter what age you are of all of this. Me personally, it takes another hit because, as I told you on Friday, that my church, Creewar Memorial Presbyterian, had their last in service. The church will be sold to another proprietor. I was told to be turned into a community center, but that was the last in service we had. And it didn't hit me till like mid in the service where I look at the pews, the front of the church where various pastors have preached there. Personally, no offense to other pastors who've been there. I grew up with a pastor named Pastor Clarence Lennon. And a lot of a certain age range, that was our pastor. And to see the stained glass and everything else, I started to cry. I did. And we had a reception afterwards, and we were able to get some Bibles. In fact, my mom wants to get some hymn books from the church and some other parts of memory. And just having that as the holdover that I went through Sunday to hear about this shootings in a church in Minneapolis, and the children were praying, literally, when they were getting shot. As I always said, you just can't make sense out of nonsense. It's impossible. You'll be the you'll be the hamster in the wheel, just going round and round. If you do something like that, but we must find some comfort, some solace, some something. That's where the leaders in that community come in. That's where parents and the mayor there had a, you know, very emotional presser when he said again, the children were literally praying, literally. This is the type of shit that really pisses me off. Depression, mental health issues, understandable, is a reality for many, but why the hell put others through it? Robert Jean is correct in their assessment. Thank you for that. Because again, mental illness is real. But like he said in the manifesto, I am not well. I am not right. I'm a sad person. He wrote this. Is it my imagination or a lot of these people, when the unfortunate shooting is happening and they get to the shooter always has some mental problems. Always. I'm breaking the promise that I made to myself not to curse, not to cuss in 2025. Well, it'll make you cuss now. How you doing, Doc Sanders? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for congregating here as we going over and the whole Minneapolis shootings. Again, 2 children killed, wounding 17 people. Let's see. Some of the things that the police were talking about, they said it appears that some of the church doors had been barred with something like a 2x4, no matter what I said earlier. 2x4 to block the doors while he was shooting through the window. If you are a person that believes in the King James Version of the Bible and you're a Christian, or no matter what affiliation you have for religion, whatever it is, me personally, as a Presbyterian, I do believe we're living in the last days. I try not to bring religion into it, but I am, and I have been before in the past and continue to do so because it's a part of who I am. This program is personality driven, and part of my personality is my background in religion. Not getting preachy, mind you, I'm not talking about that. Just letting you know that that's what uh, I come from and continue to strive from as I seek to find a new church. I mean, trying to get myself better health wise, and wouldn't mind going to an in person church, depending on where I go to. Again, my church is trying to find a home at this time after they made this complete selling of the building. So it will still be online. I personally have not been online with Creer. My mom has. My mom is a devout Christian and stayed with them all the way to the very end, literally. My mom, again, married my dad in that church. I got baptized in that church. I grew up in that church. Day camp, I said before, all the positions I held as a kid, acolyte, junior deacon, it was fun. It really was fun. It was an honor and a privilege. It was like a rite of passage, especially when you got the confirmation, not just being there with your parents. Now you're a full fledged member. That happened to me when I was 18. I'm not 18, 13. Yeah, I was 13 when I became a full fledged member. And then once I went through confirmation, took the test and everything else with Reverend Lennon, and was able to be confirmed. And then my parents had given me a blue Bible, nice King James blue Bible. Cover was blue. And then I was given a St. Christopher's medal with the Bible. It was nice. So all these memories start to flood back. If you hear any noise in the background, it is my 4-year-old niece Mawa, who has a very big mouth. That's all I got to say about that. Again, with her on a side note, reminds me of the rap song. It was two of them: "Big Mouth" by Houdini, and then the other one by Run DMC. Tired to hear you speak. You talk too much. 8 days a week. Yeah, yeah, 8 days a week. So back to the matter at hand. The easy access to firearms is obviously a problem because he had a rifle, shotgun, and a pistol and purchased them recently with no problem. The NRA doesn't give a crap. Why? Because they want to make money. There should be some stricter laws against buying firearms, but why put stricter laws on them to get the money? Whether it's cash or whether it's online, credit card, debit, Apple Pay, it don't matter. As long as this almighty dollar comes in. I was like, I don't know what you're gonna do with that pistol or rifle or shotgun. None of my business. I just sell it. So why should the NRA care? Don't get me wrong. Um, to be a responsible firearm holder is different when you do it the right way. When you, of course, lock your firearm and put it in a safe or something like that, or you, of course, don't have it around children or anybody. You had lessons to shoot your firearm. Be responsible. I get all that. But again, the easy accessibility to it is part of the problem. So the state by state thing, maybe they should raise the age of having a firearm. I don't know. When we had these discussions, what first thing come to mind? Firearms, firearm accessibility, all that type of stuff. Well, again, because nobody gives a shit. Really, to be completely transparent with you, they don't. Because if they did, it'd be a little more proactive in the whole thing. Another comment from the police saying that this was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children. I'm going to read that again for the chief seats. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children. Children between the ages of 6 and 15 were injured. When you look at the dynamic of what makes a person go through their mind of premeditation to go and shoot innocent people, let alone innocent children, could it have been prevented? I honestly do not know. Now, what could have happened, again, going back to Robin Westman, if Westman was a little more proactive, again, we don't know. And again, that's a whole different conversation with somebody who's an expert. If they know they're not right and they know that they're not well, why don't you seek help? And once again, that's an expert to ask, but I'm just being a layman, which I am. It seems to me that the person would at least try, or maybe that's the problem. They don't want to get help. They don't want to get well to some degree. I don't know. I'm just once again we're just spitballing here because we're trying to trying to understand. And again, like I said, sometimes maybe it wasn't meant for us to understand. It was just for maybe Robin Westman himself to understand. We can read all the manifestos we want. We can try to dissect it the most we can, but I think at the end of the proverbial day, it's kind of hard to pinpoint about somebody trying to take time out to kill people. Now, here's the other part that goes into all of this that happens on a consistent basis. After this, beware of the copycats. Yes, beware of them. You have to. Because now you waking up or embolden other people who feel that they can go out and do the exact same thing they just heard upon the news. They heard upon what they read, what they saw on TV or their phone or devices, whatever, and figure that it's their time too to go out and kill innocent people. I'm not wishing that. I'm just saying that all my years of doing this for 30 years, that's usually, unfortunately, the next plot. Somebody's going to see all this, and somebody's going to say, well, I could do it too. I kid you not. Do I want it to happen? Of course not. Of course not. Don't get it twisted. I'm just saying again from what people do, unfortunately. You have copycats out there. So got to look out for that. And again, it's hard to pinpoint. Going back to Westman, who attended the school, Annunciation Catholic Church, well, again, knew everything about it. So your quote unquote mastermind or master plan, because you know the church, you know its inner workings and everything else. But why bring innocent people into it and innocent children? Cut off, not even as going back to what Gus was saying, not even in your prime yet. You didn't even have a prime because you was cut down, because you were taken out. And now we have mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, and aunts and uncles and cousins and good friends of these two children, 8 and 10, who are no longer with us. I do believe in Almighty God, but I don't understand why these things happen. Now, some of you may say, well, basically, that goes back to all of us having free will. Okay. Okay, I go along with that for a little bit. So if that's the case, as I said before, on various programs, if that's the case, then it's definitely pure evil lurking around here and getting shit done. And that's what evil does. These poor children, and his poor families. Once again, 17 people wounded, 2 children killed. Now, the flip side is that this actually is kind of interesting that you have more people who survived it. Go back and check because in the past shootings, you had really multiple shootings, like from the standpoint of going past a certain number. I'm sorry that these 2 children got killed, the 8 and 10-year-old, but it could have been more. It could have been way more. But just the fact you have 17 wounded and surviving, that's a hell of a number. That's a lot. Because traditionally, unfortunately, A lot of these shootings are in multiple numbers. With my deep faith in God, everything be all right, and we need to be strong and keep the faith. Omar types. I'm not gonna sit here in front. Sometimes my faith is questioned when it comes down to this. I ain't gonna sit here and lie to you. That's usually the next phase. People say everything's gonna be all right. Everything will be all right. I don't know about that sometimes. I really don't. Your child is gone. Didn't do anything to anybody, and your child is gone now. Now, as parents, we always want to go or slash die before our children. Like we go first. But life has a way of saying, no, that's not how this works. When it's your time, it's your time. Unfortunately, it was their time. The 8 and the 10-year-old, I guess their names will be released later in time, somewhere in the middle of the week, somewhere, we're in the middle of the week now, somewhere down the week where they get everything I's dotted and T's crossed, and then they come out with their names just for clarification. But it still hurts, always will hurt. Still in pain, always will be in pain. So when I hear or read what people say everything's gonna be all right, mm, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because now, being a parent, you're scarred. You're scarred for life. It's a scar you can't get rid of. It's gonna be there forever, and that's with the death of anybody. It could be your wife, it could be your husband, it could be anybody that you love. You're scarred. So the everything would be all right part, I have a question mark behind it. You want everything to be all right, but it's not gonna be the same, obviously, because that person is gone. Oh my God, especially I think about 8 and 10-year-old. You didn't get a chance to see them grow, to flourish, to go into adulthood, to go to high school, college, to fall in love, to get a job, to grow and be human. And they can't do it because the shooter had taken them all the way out. That's why I have the question mark behind everything is going to be all right. But that's me. Me personally, I would not be all right. I got 2 daughters, as I told you, 35 and 33. My oldest would be 36 on Christmas Eve. It's funny because she's like, I'm pushing 40. Well, you are pushing 40. Someone asked me, how do you feel about your children getting older? I don't, they're getting, they're getting older. I feel great. I feel great. I've always been older than them. I'm their dad. So I got the older thing down cold, but yeah, they're the ones getting older. And I'm blessed to have 2 daughters that I can tell that about. These people can't, or people who lost their children. And sometimes I think life is not fair. These 2 kids who died today, too young to die, and they haven't taste life yet. Omar Tyson. Well, that's what I'm saying here. It's exactly what I'm saying here. All of that just rattled off about high school, college, and love and everything else. They only experience it, unfortunately. Now, again, we do have to find a way to move on. It's never easy. We have to keep these families in our prayers. and a community that has uh, been shown, has been reported as being a very close knit community there in Minneapolis, where the Annunciation Catholic Church is. This is when you really show how much of a close knit community you are. This is when you really come together. As I always told you, it's not when things are going right, sunshine and rainbows, blue skies, good days of Munda. It's not all that. It's when controversy and turmoil and pain hits, emerges the true person of who and what they are. This is one of those times. Our prayers go out to the family and friends, to the community out there who are dealing with something that they never expected. Who does? I mean, for example, you have certain schools, depending on where you are, they do have metal detectors. These schools are trying their best to protect their children. They're trying. And I wouldn't put on the school at this situation. No, I just believe that it does give you a wake up call for prevention. Now, what would you look? I mean, having no detectors at a Catholic school, that would look redundant. That would look stupid. But again, it goes back to the faith, obviously, and the trust. But not everybody's going to subscribe to that, unfortunately, and that becomes, I wouldn't say a problem, but it does put a bee in somebody's bonnet to do the exact opposite. You go back to those shootings that happened in the South, where people, when the parishioners were having church, and the guy came in and shot everybody up, and then he's in the squad car or wagon. I don't know exactly what vehicle it was by the authorities, by the police, but yeah, they went and got him what I call a happy meal. He wanted something to eat, and I got off. They went to some fast food restaurant, got something to eat, and then there you go, and then went to the precinct. What the hell is that? In this situation, the gunman killed himself. But all these shootings again, and the authorities in that situation rewarded the shooter by giving some damn happy meal, whatever they gave him, because he was hungry. I mean, fast forward to where we are now, where the authorities are doing their best to, of course, work with the FBI and vice versa to get more information, and we'll get more as the week goes along. Mm. Again, it's just beyond disturbing. Curse. Of course, your comments and questions and anything else you want to bring out about this, the number 312-597-2106. Again, 312-597-2106. Catch me right there on Facebook Live. Also, on the YouTube channel, the Chris Base channel, all one word. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Instagram, I am the base. So there's no excuse. Or you can ask for the link, put the link in the comment section, and you come through. Again, to recap, the shooter fired through the windows of a church in Minnesota today, killing 2 children and wounding 17 others. Now they're saying so now they're saying 14 wounded others, and 3 elderly parishioners. So all that total, so of course that's still 17, but they're bringing it down now. Who were marking the first week of the Annunciation Catholic Church. The FBI ID'd the shooter, who is dead, as Robin Westman, 23. The suspect graduated from the school in 2017, according to the yearbook. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said Westman released a manifesto on YouTube that included some disturbing writings. One parent who was inside the Annunciation Catholic Church with his son said a police officer went after the gunman as shots rang out. Shia McDougara told reporters the officer came into the church while the shooting was actively taking place and then left the church a few seconds later, attempting to find the shooter. Police said the shooter opened fire from the outside of the building through the windows, and then as people were inside. She also said he was sitting in the back of the pew, and his son, a second grader at Annunciation Catholic Church, was not hurt. After the news conference with officials earlier this morning, he shared an emotional moment with Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, where Madagara praised the officer who came in. In a terrifying moments during the shooting, Madagara said he didn't remember any screaming, just silence. He said he thought about what they should do, that they should run to the basement or go outside. So all this is going on in real time, is being reported via CNN, and again, just the pain of these people involved. Even of course, the parents of the shooter. You might see some stories where they interview the parents if the parents want to come forward and show their faces publicly. So they gotta be careful of that because, like guilt by association, then they'll blame the parents. Like, hey, where were you? How come your son was able to get all this weaponry and things like that? So yeah, don't be wrong. Depending on some parents, yeah, they help them buy the weapons. They'll sometimes do that. So again, as I reported earlier, CNN News Central earlier, one of the survivors was a 10-year-old named Weston Hasnell or Hasney. House, I can't even pronounce his name. House, I think it's Housney. Housney. Yeah, it's one of those words. You gotta, maybe gotta keep on saying it. So Weston said he said his friend saved his life by covering him, and his friend got shot in the back, who is now in the hospital. Because his friend is very brave, really brave, that he's praying for him. Goes his, of course, but of course his name. I would say, of course, Weston's friend is named Victor. We wish Victor a speedy recovery for being so brave. That's beyond cool. Going to say again, Pope Leo said profoundly sad in a statement, profoundly sad by the Delhi Catholic school shooting. He sends his heartfelt condolences and the assurance of spiritual closeness to all of those affected by the terrible tragedy, especially the families now grieving the loss of a child. Of course, Leo was the first American leader of the Catholic Church. Again, doing the recap here, this was part of the manifesto from Robin Westman. He said, I have waited for this for so long. I am not well. I am not right. I am a sad person haunted by those thoughts that do not go away. I know this is wrong. Yeah. Our parents knew about and questioned everything that was brought in. They didn't play, Barbara Jean types. Well, I agree with that. I think again, depending on the parent slash parents involved or a guardian, you really have to be thorough with your children, especially nowadays. They have so much other things to occupy their time. The internet, Fortnite. I can go on with that. My nephew plays Fortnite and games like that. They get preoccupied. They get lost within the internet. They get completely transfixed. Sometimes you have to remove the cell phone from them, cut off their computer, whatever, and then get them involved. Parents got to be more proactive and more one on one and not letting the internet or the TV become the babysitter. It's the last thing you don't want to happen, but that's what some parents do. They do that. I don't know why parents are lazy like that. I have no idea, but they do. So you have to be in contact with your child and ask him or her, or whatever pronoun you want to use for your child these days, what's going on in school. Have them feel they can talk to you. And of course, you got to go through you being the parent, of course, you're the authoritative figure. And sometimes they feel like if I talk to my parent, they're going to scream the shit out of me, which that's what some parents do. I know my parent did. My dad more so than my mom, but you get the drift. So I'm not going to tell you everything, but at least try to establish the inroads so maybe one day they will tell you what you need to know. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. I told you I got to talk to my. We're in the house. I got an intercom system, so yeah, that was my sister. The process of all of this is to, of course, ask questions and try to find answers, but be prepared for some of these questions not to be answered because there are no answers. I believe there are no answers. We can do our best to understand, but it was again, I said, wasn't meant for us to understand anything. Now, when it comes to this, to do the best we can. I've been saying for years that computers should be located in common areas, not the child or the young adult's bedroom. You're right, but that's what the era we're living in. We're living in an era of computers and devices and things like that. So it's going to be in their bedrooms, regardless. If they don't, they're living in the Stone Age. In 2025, not to have a computer in your room, a computer somewhere in the home, yeah, you live in the Stone Age. I understand what you're saying, Barbara Jean, but yeah, but see, that goes back to the paternal or maternal instincts of the parent to, of course, have parental locks on the internet so they won't go through to see things on there they shouldn't be seeing. You put those guardrails up, that protects them, unless they find a way to break through the guardrails themselves, then you got an ass whipping coming. Or punishment, or depending on how the parent delegates authority in the home. So again, it varies. There's just so much pain in the world nowadays. So much pain. And these children who got shot and killed, and again, the ones who survived, the children and teenagers and adults who survived, again, they got to carry that for the rest of their lives. The parents who will not have a child again who was suffering the loss, they have to find a way to go on. And this is where the road gets tough. How can you go on without that person in your life? How can you do it? How can you go on? Thank you for taking the time to be here for your thoughts and comments in the comment section. I thank you so much. Catch me Friday for Baseline. We congregate every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Continue to be safe, continue to be sound, continue to be healthy, and most importantly, above anything else, continue to be loved. Long live the peace, long live the funk, more power to you. And again, my thoughts and prayers to the families and friends out there in Minneapolis. And as always, even in our darkest hour, find a way to keep your head up.